News that's coming in at the moment. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has responded to Donald Trump's trade talks remark. Just a couple of hours ago, we just heard how there was a statement given by the US President Donald Trump where he said that India and the United States of America have a good relationship and it seems like the trade talks are on track. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has now responded to what the US President Donald Trump has said, and he's now saying that Prime Minister Modi has now responded. He's saying that he's happy that India and the United States of America are close ties. I am confident that our trade negotiations will pave way for unlocking the limitless potential of India-US partnership. Our teams are working to conclude these discussions at the earliest. I'm also looking forward to speak with President Donald Trump. We will work together to secure a brighter, more prosperous future for both the people, for the people of both the nations. My colleague Pranay Upadhyay is now joining me on the story. Pranay, this is big development which is now happening. We just saw how one of the key negotiators from India visited Washington, D.C., had a conversation with the top US administration, also had a conversation with President Donald Trump. And now we are seeing things moving probably at a fast pace. We are seeing how it was the US President Donald Trump came out and said that he's very much looking forward to have a conversation with with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Prime Minister Modi has responded to Donald Trump's trade talk remarks.
You're absolutely right, Aishwarya. And if you notice that in of late, in last few weeks, there has been a positive development. The kind of remarks made by U.S. President Donald Trump, especially after he made a remark that India and United States are good partners, and we do not, and he doesn't think that he has lost India. And thereafter, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also reacted and responded to his remark via social media posts. And clearly, there is a positive development in terms of the US-India trade talks as well, because as we have been highlighting that we still have time and deadline is still there for India and United States to conclude the bilateral trade agreement, which was agreed during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's February 2025 visit, and it was announced by both the leaders in February. So in that kind of, in that direction, there is a positive development. As you mentioned, that Indian delegation and Indian representation has approached United States, and we see a positive movement as far as the barriers are concerned. Both the sides are willing to resolve those issues, those differences. And as US President Donald Trump said, that there are negotiations which are continuing to address the trade barriers between the two countries. And he also looked forward to speaking to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and where he expressed and he said that my good friend Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And if you notice, Aishwarya, various times, whenever President Donald Trump referred to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he mentioned that he is my good friend, and that is a positive thing we have to look at. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi also reciprocated that, and he said that India and United States are close friends and natural partners. So these are very significant things, at a time when everyone thought that this relationship has gone. President Donald Trump has actually, you can say that it's a kind of a turn, and especially when his advisors like Navarro and many people were raising questions and directly targeting India, on trade things and the Russian oil purchase. But if you see what US President Donald Trump has said and how Prime Minister Narendra Modi has reciprocated and reacted and responded to the statement made by President Donald Trump, so we see it as a positive development that India and United States both are willing to resolve their issues. There is a positive development in terms of resolution of the differences as well as conclusion of the bilateral trade agreement, to which both sides are engaging with each other, and we see it as a matter of something which both countries can resolve and can achieve.
Right, Pranay, it's also very important at the moment to mention Jason Miller. Now, he's someone which the Indian embassy had hired, and he is someone who actually over the past 4 to 5 days has been in the United States of America in Washington, D.C. on behalf of India, negotiating with the US government. And we are now seeing the climb down which is happening, none other than coming in from none other than the US President Donald Trump. So it seems like India very, very keen to make sure that the trade talks happen. In fact, Piyush Goyal also gave a sort of a deadline that India is looking at completing the BTA, which is the bilateral trade agreement, by November this year. It seems like after a lot of tug of war, things seem to be back on track.
Not only Jason Miller, Aishwarya, but there have been various backchannel talks between the Trump administration and Modi government. There are various tracks. Recently, the former Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla and now Rajya Sabha MP has also visited the United States. There have been, various other tracks as well, and even via the official channels, there has been engagement, which has been indicated. I personally, when I asked the senior officials of the Ministry of External Affairs, they confirmed that that doesn't mean that we are not engaging with the United States. We continuously keep engaging with the United States. And if you see, recently there have been 2+2 intersessional dialogue between India and the United States, where the Joint Secretary concerned of the Ministry of External Affairs and his counterpart from the State Department engaged. Besides that, you mentioned about Jason Miller, who's a lobbyist hired by India in July. He also, met U.S. President Donald Trump. And these are all various, ways with which both the countries are trying to resolve their issues. Yes, there were differences and there are still differences. But the willingness to resolve those issues and move ahead, that matters the most. And as mentioned by U.S. President Donald Trump and as, responded and reacted by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, that they both countries are willing to resolve these issues and conclude the BTA. And as far as the BTA is concerned, you mentioned about the November 2025 deadline, but in Aishwarya, if you see, in February 2025, both countries, both the leaders, when they announced the process of bilateral trade agreement negotiations, they set a deadline of fall of 2025, so which is like October, November. So we still have those the deadline left. And when the BTA is concluded, this will override the existing tariff announcement by U.S. President Donald Trump, and you can have a new tariff mutually agreed by both sides, which could be like less than 25% as well, or we have to see. Both sides are working on the trade trade rates. Or like the tariff rates on which both countries will be willing to conclude the BTA.
Right, Pranay, we've also seen how the relationship between New Delhi and Washington, D.C. actually saw a major downturn. Now this? That was my colleague Pranay, who gave us a perspective of what's happening at the moment. In fact, the downturn that we saw happening between the relationship between New Delhi and Washington, D.C., it actually happened after Donald Trump doubled down the tariffs on Indian goods. A whopping 50% is what India is looking at the moment. Now, this includes the additional 25% duties for India's purchase of the Russian crude oil. India has described U.S. action unfair, unjustified and unreasonable, but both the nations are willing to work through it.